Der Comic-Salon 2008 in Erlangen. Wir berichten auf Splash Comics live in Ton, Bild, Video und Text aus dem Frankenland.
Es fehlen noch einige Kollegen, die eigentlich hier schon auf dem Panel sitzen sollten. Vom Frau Robert wissen wir gar nichts. Heute Morgen wurde er noch gesichtet, Scholl auf dem Weg hierher. Und ja, bei Lars verschiedene Informationen. Die eine sagt, dass er im Hotelzimmer seine PowerPoint-Präsentation vorbereitet, die andere, dass er noch seinen Rausch aussteht. Da ist Frau Robert. Now we have switched to English. Yes, it's not said in the conference paper, but of course, as we have participants of diverse countries from all over the world, this will be an English language panel, of course, but as this is a globalized comics fair and international comics fair, I'm sure you will all be able to understand English language. If not, now it's time to go back to the sound. So, thank you for joining us tomorrow. This morning. Should we go back again? I'm glad to have such interesting participants. Please let me introduce them. To my very left, no, I'm sorry, to our left, women's first, is Jacqueline Bernd. She's a professor for art and media studies at Yokohama National University. She comes from Germany, she comes from Berlin. She studied Japanology in the GDR, actually, in the 80s. And,
I would like to own myself.
And then she went to Japan in 1991, is that right? And became an assistant, first lecturer and then an assistant professor at the University of Kyoto. And then in 2001 she switched to the University of Yokohama. And she's a very profound expert in manga studies. In fact, she's published the only book worth reading in German language about manga, Phänomen Manga, which appeared in 1995. And she went even deeper into the manga scene. To her right, it's Paul Robert. He lives in London. He's a journalist. He's a curator, a lecturer, writer, and broadcaster. From 1983 to 1989, we were editing the Escape magazine, which brought the continental European comics art to British audiences and had launched the careers of diverse young British comics artists. And afterwards, from 1992 to 2001, we were director of the Cartoon Art Trust. And since 2003, we were director of Comica, which is London's international comics festival at the Institute for Contemporary Art, and which is interesting in the context of our discussion. He's the author of a very instructive book about manga in English language, here 2004, about graphic novels, and about great British comics, and I think about crime comics, which is to appear later this year. Well, it hasn't appeared yet?
No, next month.
Okay. And he's the creator of the first Chinese comics exhibition in Britain.
Contemporary Chinese.
Contemporary Chinese, yeah, which ran, I think, in March, April. It's called Manhwa Chinese Comics now. And there's
Sie hat sich immer wieder bedankt in dem
from Quebec in Canada, studied animation, drum, studios in Canada, also in Germany, France, China, North Korea. And his experience as a writer of animation work in studios in Asia were recounted in two comics so far, Shenzhen, which appeared in 2001, and Pyongyang in 2003, both are available in German language editions. And most recently, he drew a comic about Burma. We'll talk about this later, which is to appear in German, I think, later this year. Is that right?
Yeah.
In 2009. And to my left, it's Sascha Hommer. he comes from. Do you come from Hamburg, or do you?
No, I come from South Germany.
Okay, but you studied in Hamburg, right? Everybody who studies in Hamburg comes from somewhere else, of course. And he's an author of short stories, a comics artist, and publisher of Wikipost label. Together with Jan Brandl, he draws a daily strip for Frankfurter Rundschau, the museum, and he's publishing the Orang magazine. We have a copy here, but if you want to have a look later, in which German artists mix with international artists, most particularly artists from China, Taiwan, I think Japan as well.
Japan, not yet.
So, and finally arrived Joachim La. You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And he's born in Wuhan, if I'm right, and he's described in every compendium to Chinese comic art, contemporary Chinese comic art, as the leader of the new generation of Chinese comics artists. And you can see some of his work in this very beautiful exhibition down in a great conference hall, which I can, if you haven't seen it already, which I can clearly recommend. It's one of the most beautiful and most interesting exhibitions I've seen in Erlangen so far. We'll talk about this later on. He studied computer technology, and since 1995 he works as a comics artist in Beijing. He's published 2 comics which have appeared in French as well. One of the titles La Nerveuse, the Dreamer in 80 degrees Celsius. And he's also the leader of the Summer Studio, from which 2 more artists are presented in the exhibition, Siada and Sous le Toit, Tao, sorry for my bad pronunciation. And I would like him to ask if he is ready to, I think he prepared a PowerPoint presentation to tell us something about his studio in Beijing, Summer Studio, and I will give the word to him if you like. Yeah. Yeah.
我今天向大家介绍我们的这个来自中国的一个漫画团队三个组。
Heute werden wir eine Comic-Gruppe aus China vorstellen.
We are China.
Summersu ist der Name von dieser Gruppe.
首先，我介绍一下在中国的这个故事漫画的一个发展的经过。
Zuerst müssen wir einmal vorstellen, diese Geschichte, Comics, Entwicklungsgeschichte.
在中国，在比较早的时候呢，有一种叫做连环画的图书。那么呢，在中国当时曾经非常受欢迎，然后比较好的连环画呢，可以很轻松的卖到50万册或者是好几百万册。
Früher gab es eine alte Comics, heißt Lenhua in China und sehr beliebt. Und manchmal, wenn man diese sehr gute Produkt von Lenhua kann man mehr als 8 Millionen verkaufen.
但是由于这种创作过于就是艺术化，所以它逐渐的被市场就不接受了。太过于艺术性了。
Aber es gibt schon ein Problem für diese Lenhua, weil diese Lenhua ist dann künstlerisch, dann allmählich hat diese Lenhua den Markt dann verloren.
所以到了80年以后，这种连环画逐渐就消失了。
Dann nach den 1980er, dann gibt es diese Art der Lenhua, gibt es dann nicht mehr.
这个时候呢，来自日本的这种 manga from Japan, and is very popular in China.
dann kommen die japanische Manga in China und dann werden sie dann sehr beliebt in China.
然后这种漫画呢，它就是非常就是它的形象非常的吸引人，然后它的故事呢想象力很丰富，在中国呢就迅速的受到了欢迎。
Wir sagen, diese Manga, sie haben immer viele faszinierende Geschichten und sehr gute Bilder von diesen Charakteren. Deswegen wurden sie dann sehr beliebt in China. Sehr beliebt.
这也是在中国非常受欢迎的日本的漫画。
Ja, hier sind einige Beispiele in China des sehr beliebten japanischen Manga.
然后在这个之后呢，我们中国出现了自己的这个漫画杂志，然后这些呢就是当时的一些非常受欢迎的漫画杂志。
Danach entstanden einige Comics, Magazine von unseren selber chinesischen Künstlern.
然后在这个就是最早的这种漫画杂志出现在1993年。
Das größte Comics Magazine entstand im Jahr 1993.
然后在这样的杂志上呢，我最早就发表了我自己的作品。这个画面右边的这一幅呢，就是我的作品。
In dieser Art Zeitschriften hat Yao zum ersten Mal seine Werk veröffentlicht. Also dieser im Recht, dieser ist dann seine erste Veröffentlichung.
那当时的这种本土的这种原创的故事漫画呢，非常的就是中国的年轻人觉得非常的新鲜。然后那个时候呢，我们自己画的这种漫画呢，也是很受欢迎的。
Damals dann diese chinesische selber geschriebene Comics wurde dann sehr frisch für die Jugendlichen. Dann sein Werk war auch sehr beliebt.
然后这部漫画的名字叫做《Dreaming Girl》，就是做梦的。Dreaming Girl，它因为非常受欢迎呢，最后被改编成了动画片。
Und dieses Werk von Herr Yao heißt Dreaming Girl. Und dann, weil es dann sehr beliebt war, dann wurde dieses Werk auch zu einem Comic-Film, einem Cartoon-Film. Ja, wurde so Animation-Film.
这个是在中国就收视率最高的电视台 CCTV 上，就是2006年播出的这个animation， 然后这也是中国第一部从这个漫画改编成 animation 的这个作品。对，是。
Das ist das erste vom Manga für Film Animation in Chinas große Fernsehsendung CCTV.
这些都是动画片。是在中国。然后。就是这个先生问的问题非常的就是有意思，因为当时中国的作品的确很像日本。
Diese Frage ist dann sehr interessant, weil damalige chinesische Werke sind sehr ähnlich wie die japanische Werke.
然后呢，我的第二部作品呢，我就希望就是比较中国一些。
Das zweite Werk von Yao möchte dann ein bisschen mehr Chinesisch machen.
然后这部作品呢 ，80 Degree 呢，就是一个非常中国的爱情的故事漫画。
Das zweite ist dann heißt 80 Degree, 80 Grad ist eine Liebesgeschichte, sehr chinesisch.
我希望它从故事到那个画面上都更加接近中国。
wollte beide Geschichte und auch diese Bilder ansehen, mehr chinesisch zu sein.
然后在这个作品里呢，因为它非常中国呢，但是在当时国内中国的漫画都很像日本的时候呢，这部漫画呢显得非常特别，但是也很受欢迎。
weil dieses neue Werk sehr chinesisch war. Dann damals gab es auf chinesischen Markt dann meistens japanische Stil, japanische Werke. Aber diese Werke war auch trotzdem auch beliebt.
然后也是这部作品呢，就是中国的漫画第一次开始版权，就是版权出口，或者说翻译到外国，翻译到外国去。
Dieses Werk wurde zum ersten Mal ins Ausland übersetzt und dann exportiert.
然后这个是翻译到这个法国还有马来西亚。
Dann in Frankreich und Malaysia.
然后因为当时我们一直都是在中国，一直都是看日本的和欧美的漫画，所以我们自己的漫画第一次被翻译出去，我们觉得非常的兴奋。
Also wir freuen uns sehr, dass unsere eigenes Werke ins Ausland zu bringen, weil damals schauen wir selbst auch meistens japanische oder koreanische Comics.
其实我们也希望就是大家能在我们漫画里看到就是属于中国的一些东西。
Hoffe auch, die Leute auch etwas chinesische Elemente in seinem Werk zu entdecken.
所以大家可以看到，这个是在马来西亚的这个单行本，这是马来西亚版本，就是最先出口。不是
Das ist dann diese 80 Grad in Malaysia.
然后在之后呢，我们又开始了新的尝试，就是我们从个人的漫画创作变成一个团体的创作，就是三位数。
Da haben sie ein bisschen verändert von persönlich war individuelle Schöpfung dann ins Gruppenschöpfung verändert. Diese Gruppe heißt Samanzu.
就是这个三分柱呢，是我们在2004年就是创立的。然后当时呢，最初的只有2个人，现在差不多有40个人，是中国目前最大的一个漫画团队之一了。
Samanzu wurde im Jahr 2004 gegründet. Damals am Anfang gab es nur 2 Personen, aber sie entwickelt sich sehr schnell. Dann jetzt gibt es mehr als 40 Leute in dieser Gruppe und sie werden schon eine von der größten Comics-Gruppe in China.
然后我们也推出了中国的一系列顶尖的这个漫画家，然后这些漫画家在中国都是就是在中国的漫画读者中间知名度都非常高。
Einige bekannte Künstler haben auch an dieser Gruppe teilgenommen, wie hier im Oben. Und sie sind dann sehr bekannt und ihre Künstlerstil ist auch vielfältig.
然后这个中间的2个女生这回都来了，就是漫画沙龙、Comic-Salon都参加了。
Diese 2 Mädchen kommen auch, ist heute auch hier, sind heute auch hier.
然后因为我们进行团队创作呢，所以我们可以创作用比较快的速度做出这种就是创作的就是画面比较复杂，或者画面比较丰富的这种漫画。
Wegen dieser Gruppenarbeit können wir dann mehr vielfältige Comics schöpfen.
因为在中国，可能读者习惯于大量的阅读漫画，他们不会等很长时间，所以我们必须得在很短的时间内画很多，但是也是高质量的。
Weil in China die Leser möchten dann sehr schnell in einer ganz kurzen Zeit viele Comics lesen, Comicsbücher lesen, dann müssen sie dann sehr schnell arbeiten.
就大家看到的画面其实都是很快的，非常快的画出来的，可能最快的速度可能大概是1天就要画6页这样，1天一个小组。
Also die Bilder, die Sie hier sehen, dann werden von dieser Gruppe sehr schnell gemalt. Am schnellsten auch innerhalb eines Tages 5 oder 6 Seiten von dieser Gruppe zu malen.
Darf ich fragen, wie ist die Arbeit, es arbeiten mehrere Zeichner an einem demselben Comic jeweils, oder wie ist die Arbeit organisiert im Studio?
简单的说就是 就是每一个人都负责他最擅长的一个环节。
Einfach zu sagen, dass jeder in der Lage von der Teil, die er dann am besten macht.
大家可以看到，其实这两部漫画的风格还是很不一样的，但是它其中，就是其实相当多的制作人员之前后两届。
Wir können jetzt sagen, diese zwei Seiten Comics sind ein bisschen andere Stil voneinander haben, aber sie sind von einer gleichen Gruppe gemacht.
Dann wüsste ich gerne noch, dann kommen wir vielleicht auch zum nächsten Participant. Wie groß sind die Auflagen und wer ist das Publikum für chinesische Comics? Also welche Bevölkerungsgruppe in China lesen Comics? Sind das vor allem Jugendliche oder ist es ausdifferenziert wie in Japan? Es gibt alle Altersgruppen, bestimmte Produkte, wie ist das?
Nein, wie viele Auflagen wurde da veröffentlicht?
Nein, wie viel gedruckt werden pro Exemplar?
Also die Art von dieser Leser.
Und das Alter bilden.
就是我们在中国的读者现在主要还是年纪比较小的，大概是10岁到18岁之间的。
Ungefähr zwischen 12 bis 18 Jahre alt.
Es gibt keine Comics, die Sie für Erwachsene produzieren.
Es gibt auch.
那后面我也会做介绍。
Ja, später werde ich dann weiter vorstellen.
这个也是我们的漫画家的作品。
Ja, wir sind auch Schöpfungswerke von einiger Künstler. Von Sammlungsbuch.
然后在我们在这种故事漫画取得了一个比较好的成绩以后呢，我们也开始了创作一系列就是以前中国没有的漫画。
Nachdem wir diese Geschichte-Comics sehr erfolgreich gemacht haben, haben wir dann mit der Weiterschöpfung angefangen, die es vorher in China gar nicht gibt.
就像这里面的这些漫画就是给成年人看的。
Wie diese Art der Comics werden für die Erwachsene veröffentlicht.
就是对，然后那么这些漫画呢，就是它可能内容上更偏向于个人的感受、生活的体验。
Diese Art der Comics dann werden mehr also persönliches Gefühl und und mehr für die aktuelle Erlaubnis im realen Leben.
然后这下面的两部漫画呢，是关于，这两部漫画呢是关于经济类的。
Ja, gibt es denn im chinesischen Comic sowas wie Zensur? Zensur, also dass man irgendwelche Themen nicht zeigen darf. Gibt es sowas im chinesischen Comic?
在中国可能就是漫画的话，有一些需要注意的地方，比如说过于色情的或者过于暴力的，可能都是不允许的。
Ja, es gibt eine Art von Zensur von Tradition, so wie sehr sexuell oder sehr gewaltig, dann im Comic normalerweise gibt es nicht.
但是我感觉这也不是太大问题，因为其实现在我们的书在欧洲也能够看到。其实如果漫画家喜欢画那种题材的话，还是有很多地方是可以看的。
Ich finde das auch kein Problem zu sein, dass jetzt haben wir auch einige Bücher in Europa veröffentlicht. Wenn ein Künstler immer an dieses Thema orientiert, dieses Stil benutzt, dann ist normalerweise gibt es hier auch vielleicht auch ein Verbot in dieser Art zu veröffentlichen.
然后在这个下面的这两部漫画呢，是关于这个也是给成年人看的，是关于经济的漫画。
Also die Worte der zwei Werke sind auch für Erwachsene und es geht um die Wirtschaft.
然后 大家可以看到旁边的小猪呢是我们放在互联网上，让那个工人们进行聊天的时候用的。
Wir können sagen, diese Schweinchen, die sind auf der Internetseite für die Leute, die miteinander unterhalten. Ja, diese Unterhalten, diese Schweinchen zu benutzen.
然后这里也是这个小猪呢，也是我们的
Schweine unterhalten sich oder Pferde? Schweine unterhalten sich oder?
就是如果你还是就是假设你的朋友说了一句话，你感到非常吃惊的话，你可以用这个表示你很吃惊，这个闪电的。
Ja, wir sagen, diese Schweinchen sind für eine überschreitende Zeigen, meine Laune oder meine Meinung für die Freunde zu zeigen. Zum Beispiel, wenn mein Freund etwas erzählt, das mich sehr groß überraschen. Ich möchte meine Überraschung zeigen. Dann benutze ich ein Schweinchen hier. Dann,
If you are angry, you can use this. Yeah, I'm angry. If you say no, you can use this.
Okay.
Ich würde dann gerne den nächsten Teilnehmer fragen, vielleicht wenn er noch einen Schlusssatz zu seiner Präsentation sagen möchte. Ich würde dann gerne zum nächsten Teilnehmer kommen.
Ich habe eine Frage.
Ja.
Gibt es irgendwelchen Einfluss an der europäischen Comics in China?
应该说我们在中国这种聊天用的这个小动画还是很受欢迎的。那么，因为我们对欧洲的不太了解，就是我不知道欧洲是不是也流行这个。
Diese Art Schweinchen für Unterhalten ist dann sehr populär in China, aber ja, weiß nicht, ob diese auch beliebt in Europa sind.
Nee, umgekehrt, weil es europäische Comics gibt, die in China gelesen werden. Asterix oder
在中国也有，但是非常非常的少。
Ja, es gibt europäische Comics in China, aber nicht so viele.
Hat es irgendeinen Einfluss auf den chinesischen Comic? Also der japanische.
应该说，欧洲有一部漫画在中国影响非常大的，就是那个《丁丁历险记》。
Es gibt einen einflussreich Comics von Europa in China, heißt Abenteuer von Ding Ding.
所以我们下一部作品呢，其实是受到丁丁的影响。
Dann nächstes Werk haben wir auch Einfluss von Ding Ding genommen.
就是这部作品。
Diese.
这部作品呢，这个是我们做的动画片。
Es ist ein Cartoonfilm.
Animation.
Entschuldigung, Animation.
Ja. Jacqueline, was fragen?
Yeah, what is so Chinese about his comics? Was ist so chinesisch an seinen Comics? Weil die Frage gerade kam, das sieht doch so aus wie Manga. Und er sagte, nein, also meine Comics sind ganz chinesisch, besonders 80 Grad Celsius. Also was ist chinesisch?
那这部作品就是受到丁丁的一个启发影响的一部作品。它是关于它是因为丁丁是一个小男孩去冒险的，这就是一个小女孩也是去冒险的。
Dieses Werk hat auch großen Einfluss von Ding Ding bekommen und diese Geschichte ist auch über ein Mädchen, eine Abenteuerreise machen.
Nein, die Frage war, da ist mal wiederholen. Er hat ganz am Anfang gesagt, am Anfang sahen seine Sachen recht japanisch aus und er möchte jetzt, dass sie chinesischer aussehen. Die Frage ist, wie unterscheidet sich ein chinesischer Comic, der auch chinesisch aussieht, von einem japanischen Comic, der japanisch aussieht? Oh.
这个我们没有带大量的画面，就是像这部作品，我认为就是非常中国的，因为它的在日本的漫画里面，爱情 一般都会，如果是一个爱情故事的话，它可能会就是会有好几个主角，然后他们互相之间的这种多角恋，这怎么说？就是一个就是 A 喜欢上 B 又喜欢上 C 又喜欢上 D 这样的关系。但是在这部漫画里面，可能更多的是一些比较琐碎的，或者比较就是更真实的一种感受，可能不一定是很多个人之间的爱情，可能就是两个人之间，时间很久了，然后会感到就是。
Also, schön, dass wir heute nicht so viele Bilder mitgebracht haben, aber willst du sagen, dieser chinesische Unterschied zwischen Japanisch von sagen, diese Geschichte von Japanisch, zum Beispiel Liebesgeschichte in japanischen Comics, sind normalerweise zwischen mehreren Leuten. Also A liebt B und B liebt C und dann C liebt A. Das ist ein bisschen kompliziert, ja. Und dann, er meinte, dass in diesem Buch sehr chinesisch ist dann, es gibt dann nur zwei Liebe A und B, aber diese Geschichte ist eine sehr lange und einige sind eine sehr detaillierte Geschichte.
那么像这部漫画里呢，这里有一个中年的男人，就躺在地上的这个男人，他跟他的女朋友在一起时间太久了，他已经失去了对于爱情的感觉。那这时候呢，有一个小女生出现了，然后他们两个在一起待了一段时间呢，他这时候发现，可能他最爱的还是他原来的那个女朋友。那么这种感受呢？
Also dann, wie wir schon gesehen haben, in dieser Bilder, es gibt einen erwachsenen, dieser Mann liegt auf der Straße. Er hat schon zu lange Zeit mit seiner eigenen Freundin schon zusammengeblieben und er hat schon ein bisschen kein Gefühl von dieser Liebe, er hat das Ziel gefunden und er hat dieses Mädchen getroffen. Und dann nach einiger Zeit mit diesem Mädchen zusammen zu sprechen oder zusammen zu bleiben, dann hat er dann wieder erzählt, dass seine eigene Freundin entspricht seinen Taten am besten.
然后这种比较，然后这种比较微妙的感觉，可能在日本漫画里呢，或几些日本漫画的里面的爱情呢，就是非常强烈的。
Er meinte, diese sehr feine, wie soll man sagen,
你说这种感觉在日本漫画里经常会体现，他们往往体现的是一种比较强烈的东西。
Okay. Und diese Art der feine Gefühlsbeschreibung ist in japanischen Comics dann nicht so oft. Also sie beschreibt diese Liebe dann mit sehr starken Methoden, sehr stark zu äußern.
Okay, we get completely lost in translation now. I think we have got to switch back to English. And I would like to ask Jacqueline. Then should we translate for? I'd like to ask you then. We heard a lot, which you couldn't understand properly. Sorry, but we heard a lot about Chinese comics culture at the moment, and also the young Chinese comics artists. And you've drawn a comic book about Shenzhen, about your experience in Shenzhen, and what I was wondering first when I read the comic is that there aren't any comics showing up in your adventures in Shenzhen. Why so?
No, I didn't put in the book comics that I found, but when I was there, I was going around in all the books I could find, and I brought back a lot of comics. They were mostly classic comics, because that's in 95 or 97. Because so for China, it's a long time ago now, because everything is changing so fast there. But no, I read the stuff that I have at my home. Yeah.
Did you return afterwards to Shenzhen or something?
No, that was my second trip actually. So I had the idea to take first, not to forget too much about the second trip, so that I can look at the first one. So that's why I wanted to do it again.
And the next book you wrote, drawn about Pyongyang, of course. How about comics in North Korea?
It doesn't exist, I think. From what I've been able to see, or even books are very difficult to find. You can find some translations classics, like all the French classics are probably translated in Korean, but that's not quite convenient having a book with image. You would only find the image of Kim Jong-un going and go to his father, and well, that's all you have. You can have books about all the famous stands in North Korea, all the famous statues of North Korea, but that's all the image books you can have. It's a really strange country.
On the other hand, as far as I know, there has been an animation branch in North Korea, an animation scene, even before international productions went into North Korea, and like with you producing movies and TV movies for France and so on. In which way, what does a North Korean animation movie look like?
Well, they had a tradition of animation, that's why they had opened up a studio. So they had, like all of Asia, they all have tradition. Vietnam, I remember I've seen Vietnam and Korean animation from before the 50s in festivals, and they're very interesting. But nowadays they're more interested in subcontracting animation from Europe or America, because they just want to make money, and so it's more of a business now than an artistic expression. I hope it's going to go back to that, or they're going to do the same thing happen in East Europe as well. So there are now subcontracting places for Europe and North America. It's really because they used to be very influential in the graphically and in animation. Even the Americans have kind of copied East Europe style at one time. So that was very good. Well, it was very well, at least some artistic stuff was coming out of that. But nowadays, yeah, it's some situation. So they have studios, and they were opening up in the corners to the subcontract.
And how about Burma then?
Oh, Burma was different because I stopped doing animation to just do comic books, and I must be born under the theory of traveling, because my wife is working for NGOs, and now I'm following her. Going in different countries. So we spent 1 year in Ethiopia a long time ago, and the last place we went was Burma. So we spent the year 2005 in Burma, and I did plan to do a book about it, but like when I go to this place, I just think it would be a good idea to do a book. But if I don't find the material enough or the time or the inspiration, I don't do it. I was in Vietnam. I didn't do a book in Vietnam. But after 6 months being in Burma, I realized it was enough material to start working on books. For the first time, I actually started the book in the country itself, so that was interesting.
Did you see any comics from Burma? Is there something like a homegrown comics production?
Well, yeah, there is, and that's I was glad to talk about that, because there's actually like 80 magazine published in Burma. They're very bad quality, and we talked about sports, local artists. But all inside of that, they have cartoons, they have caricature, and they have comics and pages of comics. So you have a scene of comic book artists or the administration would like to do comics. But it's the same situation like in France, except they don't have the same amount of money to publish and to print and all that. But they have the same kind of problem, like they would like to do less illustration, but it's more money to illustration to do than comics, but they would really like to do comics. So we were sharing a lot of experience like that about European scene. And so at one point I was invited to one of their celebrations. Every year they kind of pay their respect to the oldest guy who does cartoon there. He's like the one who has influenced everybody. And he's quite old, and he's in a very bad health situation. So they all gather together and they give him money. So he can spend the rest of the year in a not so bad situation. So I was invited in that meeting. There was about 150 people doing in that gathering. They were all doing comics and illustrations. I was very impressed for a country we never hear about to have as much people doing cartoons.
Which influences do they have? Do they have any foreign comics translated in Burma, or is it all censored?
Yeah, they have a bit, not too much. They tend to reuse the text like they wipe out the text of Charlie Brown and they do other text inside Charlie Brown. And they do, they do translate Mickey Mouse, I think, for the kids. So they don't pay the rights, they just reprint it really badly. So it's quite funny. I haven't seen Tintin, which I'm surprised. I think it's not translated in Burma. It's probably one of the only countries where Tintin is not translated. They're influenced by a bit manga, and there's a few guys doing more European style, but it's mixed. Yeah, they don't have a lot of influence because they don't have lots of comics coming in the country. There's Agence Française who has tons of European comics, so they can go in there, but for some reason they don't go really. So I was introducing them on these comics. They were really happy actually. One guy draws a bit like Saint-Péry, and one guy draws a bit like American cartoons.
Jacqueline, I'd like to know from you, after the manga boom in the last years, which arrived in Europe and even in Germany, now we get to know even more and more Asian comics from Asian countries which are not Japan. And I'd like to know from the point of view from the Japanese audiences, what do they know and what do they read like Chinese comics, comics from Southern Korea? Is there a consciousness for an Asian comic scene, kind of pan-Asian comic scene?
Not necessarily. I'm not that well informed, but as far as I know, there are several collaborations with South Korea, of course, and a little bit with Taiwan. Some young artists, for example, from Taiwan or from South Korea, even got their education at Japanese art colleges, like Seika University in Kyoto. And when they go back, they want to promote Tezuka, but it doesn't work. and the Japanese politicians recently are very glad that manga style is proliferating around the world, but of course they are not at all interested in re-imports or in comic styles which are different from the mainstream teenager-oriented manga, so to say. So Japan is a very closed comics culture, I would say. And there are people who read American comics, there are people, translations are available, but they are only read in very exclusive niche.
Do you have Tintin in Japan? Do you have Tintin in Japan?
Yes, of course, as a children's book. Nobody would read Tintin as a manga, as a comic. And it's hardcover, it's A4 size, and nobody recognizes it. Only people who study French or French studies know that this font is in English, or the other say it's a children's book. They know it. The interesting thing for me now, because I'm much more involved in academic comic studies, is we are living in an age of globalization, and it's great to know more about comics in remote places. But as the Chinese artist has introduced his comics culture to us, it's difficult to find common issues. For example, like when I listen to such a presentation, what am I going to do about it? Am I going to learn something about what's Chinese, or do I have to study Chinese culture first in order to get to know something about Chinese comics? And this happens with, for example, the International Journal of Comics Art, John Land. There are so many interesting articles about comics around the world, but I have to study Russia first, and then I can learn something about Russian comics. And my interest is now, how can we find a level of communication which allows us to talk about comics first, without dismissing the specific context. But until now, it's like to talk about nations or national culture, and then, if we are lucky, in the end, we talk about comics, maybe, about Chinese comics as comics, or manga as comics. I don't know.
Sorry. I think the point is that we're talking, for example, today with Bela about Chinese comics, about manhwa, but the lines that dividing nations are blurred, completely blurred now. We're seeing a kind of form of comics which is often difficult to say this is very, very Chinese, this is very, very English. I mean, British comics, just to mention them, I think to the American market, like Alan Moore. How British is Alan Moore?
Are the British comics today?
Of course, yes, they're cute, I love them a lot. And it's also thing, they have comics in Burma, you go, gosh. I mean, why should that surprise us? Really, it shouldn't surprise us at all. Actually, for me, revelation that, of course, comics that are global was the Maurice Horn edited World Encyclopedia of Comics that came out in 1976. And that was, I just lived inside that book for the best part of a year, just kind of discovering and realizing that comics are truly international. And the other project I did just recently was a pan-European and Asian collaboration called Lingua Comica, which is an exhibition of here, where we brought together 14 artists, 7 from Asia and 7 from Europe to collaborate. And the open application around the world brought, obviously within Asia and Europe, amazing work from the Philippines, from Hungary, from Vietnam, places that we just don't hear about. And I'm quite sure that as the internet is doing the job of opening it up, and festivals too, we're going to see more and more work, which will be hard to pigeonhole. I think Japanese point, though, is that for me, I can't become an expert in every different country's culture, but of course the comics, many of them are completely rooted in their culture, and they give you a wonderful window. If you read Zeppelin, for example, you have an amazing window into life and culture in Iran, for example. And I'm quite sure that if you read Yao Feila's work, a lot of that is going to have elements where you know you're inside a Chinese world. And certainly, my reading of 80 Degrees Centigrade, I was in French, so I can unfortunately read it in French. I just thought this is something really fresh and really different coming out of China. China, in a sense, processing the enormous impact of manga, but actually into something of its own, which is, you can say it's hard to pin down what it is, beyond being culturally rooted in Chinese experience and Chinese way of thinking and living, but I get a sense of that. It's hard to pin down, but there were moments when I literally got shivers. I thought, my God, I think I see something that's different about your work particularly. But because there seem to be moments where you seem to be able to create a beautiful kind of tranquility and atmosphere, which of course exists in manga too, because the work of Taniguchi, who was a genius of this, and it isn't something we associate with the typical action-driven or emotion-driven worlds of manga. And that seemed to me to come out of Yan Huanhua, which you talked about at the beginning, which is the whole point of the Yan Huanhua. You don't have dynamism, you don't have very dramatic shifts from panel to panel. You have moments of contemplation and beautiful composition and artwork. And I believe that you and several other artists are combining Yan Huanhua with manga and others to make a new form of comic.
Which at first glance looks quite Western.
It does actually, yeah. And it wouldn't surprise us because, of course, Western art isn't Western. It's been looking at China and Japan, because we were copying Japanese prints. I mean, it's not in a box. Before the internet, we still looked at each other's visual material internationally, because we know they were back to Topfer influencing people in America. It's a continual cycle of influence.
Okay, the national differences are very important in terms of quality. how you sell products abroad and how you conquer foreign markets. But for us as readers, or maybe critics, this kind of, maybe the national differences are less important than differences in general, like you have easily consumed products for teenagers, and on the other hand, you have more minor creations for an adult readership with certain demands towards a fiction. And in this regard, I remember your own review of the Japanese short story manga exhibition in Berlin when you wrote, remember? This allegedly most avant-garde Japanese manga look most European. No.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, if you try to introduce criteria like underground and mainstream, which transcend national boundaries. If you go to Japan and try to talk about underground and mainstream, nobody understands you, because those are national criteria as well. So, but I'd like to go from Sasha the point of view of the artist, because in the Mobile magazine you have Chinese artists as well as German artists. What's the criteria for you to select the contributors?
Well, it's difficult to have general criteria to select something or to name the criteria. It's more a question of taste for me. What's to include in one issue of Orang, but for sure one criteria is that with a publication like Orang we want to bring German artists or work of German artists in new context, and to have a possibility to compare also in one book the production of young German and young artists from abroad, from somewhere from Finland or also China. To be able to see similarities and also, of course, what's different.
Where do you meet the artists? How important is the internet, and how important are international festivals like in Finland?
I think the festivals are very important to us. In Lucerne, at the Fumetto Festival, I met guys from Finland, from Italy. To meet the guys from China, I had to travel to China, but I was going there anyway. But the contact was through the internet. One artist from Beijing, for example, he contacted Anke Feuchtenberger, and she told me about this. And so when I went to Beijing, I had the possibility to meet him there. And this was quite impressive, because first I was in Hong Kong, where the culture is a mixture. That's because historical reasons between Chinese and European culture. So I was very surprised to see all the books from l'Association and everything in Hong Kong. But when I traveled to Beijing, they only had a very few books, and I think 4 or 5 books of so-called avant-gardistic new European comics, and 2 of them was German authors. It was Anke Feuchtenberger and Martin Tondik. So they found this in the internet, and this is how we made a contact. But then I was there to meet them.
But the internet doesn't play any role in getting an idea of what kind of comics you would like to print in the book or in your magazine?
Not really.
Which means, Nasha, we should send our students or young acquaintances to your European festivals.
I think so. I would like to meet them, yes.
Yeah, okay.
But maybe it's possible to do with the internet. Maybe it's a good way to get in touch.
But then you want to see them in touch.
It's better to have the books and to meet the artist, and when you meet someone, you can do it like this. Oh, this is your book, and then he can explain it. You get a feeling for the intentions behind it.
Well, just mention that the way we worked on the Lingua Comic project, bringing together these artists from Asia and Europe. The first year, 2006, there were like 10 artists brought together in 10 days, 12 artists, 10 days in Singapore, and they hadn't met each other before, and it was pretty fun to throw them together, so they could get on with each other and collaborate and do things. What we used was a blog, and that's what you can see downstairs in the exhibition. And that's the third way, over 6 weeks before they came to London, for them to get to know each other in very playful, creative ways. Some people would just draw about their lives and show their content. Other people would actually ask questions about the other person and do a detective story about each other, for example. And it enabled people to meet online, as we know, it's a very powerful way of communicating and contacting, and draw and create comics together, and then when they met in London, really collaborate productively. And I think that's because, again, the internet is not just I'm going to click on some pages and Google something. You can obviously do a lot of interaction through blogs and sharing work. And that actually, I know that Orang does that, because they've done things beyond the printed page. You work on your website or something, are you able to create some kind of more collaboration between the issues of the magazine, for example, which would be interesting.
Unfortunately, we're already running completely out of time.
Started a bit late.
Because Paul has the next lecture, so we
I don't mind if you overrun it.
First, there are questions from the audience. I would say if there are any questions, we have the last the last round. Otherwise, I will give the word to Paul for his next lecture. Okay. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you for your patience.